Assalamu alaikum. In today's video, we are looking at another game of Mikhail Tal which he played against Johann Hjartarson. In this game, Mikhail Tal was playing as a white, so he started the game with the e4, now e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5. This is the one of most famous Ruy Lopez opening, now a6 and bishop to a4. But if you're thinking about bishop captures on c6 and after d captures on c6, you can win the pawn on the e5. That is not possible because black can play queen to d4, and after you move the knight, he can easily win the pawn back. And in this position, black has the bishop pair. That's why in this position, Mikhail Tal didn't capture the knight. Instead, he played bishop to a4, now knight to f6, short castle, bishop to e7, and now rook to e1. After rook to e1, again Mikhail Tal is threatening this e5 pawn because Mikhail Tal can play bishop captures, and after pawn captures, knight captures on e5, and black cannot play this knight captures on e4 because of this rook. That's why black in this position play b5, attacks the bishop, and now bishop to b3, short castle, c3. c3 is a multi-purpose move. If in the future black play knight to a5 or a5 a4 move, then Mikhail Tal can play this bishop to c2, and also with the help of this c3, Mikhail Tal can play this d4 move. Black played d6, opening this diagonal for the bishop, but Mikhail Tal immediately stops it with the h3 move, and now black cannot play this bishop to g4 move. Black played knight to a5, attacking the bishop and also preparing this c5 move, because when Mikhail Tal plays this d4, he can play c captures on d4. Mikhail Tal saves his bishop with the bishop to c2 and now c5, d4, queen to c7. Queen to c7 is a good move because after these two pawns get exchanged, black can play bishop to b7 or bishop to d7, and after that he can play rook to c8, and he would have this powerful battery on the c file. Mikhail Tal played knight b to d2, bishop to d7, knight to f1, c captures on d4, c captures on d4, and after rook a to c8, black has this powerful battery on the c file, and he is also attacking this bishop, so Mikhail Tal saves it with the knight to e3, knight to c6, d5 attacks the knight, so knight to b4, black is again attacking this bishop, so Mikhail Tal retreats it with the bishop to b1, and now black played a5 move. So stop the video and try to find why did black played a5 move. The reason is simple. If we go back and let's say you play some random move, then Mikhail Tal can play a3, and now this knight is trapped. That's why in this position a5 is a very important move, but still Mikhail Tal played a3, knight to a6, and now b4. Mikhail Tal is sacrificing the pawn on the b4 square. Black didn't accept it and he played g6. But let's see what happens if you accept the sacrifice. If you play a captures on b4, but now a captures on b4 and rook is attacking the knight, so knight captures on b4, and after bishop to d2, this knight is trapped. That is the reason why black didn't accept the sacrifice. He played g6, but now bishop to d2, a captures on b4, a captures on b4, this knight is again under attack, so queen to b7, bishop to d3, knight to c7, knight to c2, preparing this bishop to e3, and then rook to a7. Black played knight to h5, bishop to e3, and black immediately stops it with the rook to a8, offering the rook exchange, and Mikhail Tal accepts it with the queen to d2. And now Mikhail Tal rooks are connected. Black played rook captures on a1, and Mikhail Tal captured the rook back but with the knight. The reason is simple because this knight was doing nothing on the c2 square, and now Mikhail Tal can play knight to b3, and later he can play knight to a5. There he can cover this open a file. Black played f5, and now bishop to h6 attacks the rook, so knight to g7 saves it, and now knight to b3. Black played f4, and now Mikhail Tal bishop cannot go back. Knight to a5, covering this open a file and also attacking the opponent's queen, so black played queen to b6, but now rook to c1, placing the rook on the open file, rook to a8, and now queen to c2. Now Mikhail Tal has this powerful battery on the c file, and he is also attacking this knight, so black saves it with the knight to e8, queen to b3, bishop to f6, knight to c6, knight to h5, but let's see what happens if you trade this bishop with the knight. If you play bishop captures on c6, but now Mikhail Tal can play d captures on c6 with a discover check, and now Mikhail Tal has this extra powerful passer pawn. That's the reason why black didn't capture the knight. Instead he play knight to h5, but now queen to b2, bishop to g7, offering the bishop exchange, and Mikhail Tal does not have any option, so he played bishop captures on g7, king king captures on g7. But the best move for the black in this position was to play knight captures on g7, but he missed it and he played king captures on g7. So at this position, Mikhail Tal brilliantly sacrificed his full rook with the rook to c5. Such a brilliant move. It's simple, you should not capture the piece if Mikhail Tal is sacrificing it. Black did the same and he played queen to a6. But let's see what happens if you play d captures on c5. And now Mikhail Tal can play knight captures on e5. So now he can play knight captures on d7 with the discover check, and after that he will capture your queen. Let's say in this position black saves it with the king to f8, but now Mikhail Tal can play knight captures on d7 and again he will win the queen. So king to f8 is not good. Let's say you play king to g8, but now Mikhail Tal can play knight to e7 check. If black play king to f8, it's simple, knight captures on d7 is winning. And if in this position you play king to g7, again knight captures on d7 is just winning for Mikhail Tal. And it's same if you play king to h8, again knight captures on d7 will win the game. So the only option black is left with is knight to f6, but again Mikhail Tal can play knight captures on d7, attacks the queen. Let's say queen to a6, but now knight captures on d5 again attacks the queen. So now queen to a1 check, exchanging the queen. After rook captures on a1 check, king to h2, Mikhail Tal is again winning this position because of these two passer pawns. Let's say you stops it with the rook to e1, but now after d6, this is just winning for Mikhail Tal, because if you capture the pawn, Mikhail Tal will win the piece with the e5 move. And if you don't capture the pawn, then you know d7 and d8 is equal to queen is just winning for him. That's why capturing this rook in this position does not work for the black. That's why he didn't capture it. He played queen to a6, and now Mikhail Tal has to save his rook. So he played a rook captures on b5, and now knight to c7 attacks the rook. And in this position, Mikhail Tal again sacrificed his full piece with the rook to b8, giving away his bishop. Black happily accepts it with the queen captures on d3. But why did Mikhail Tal sacrifice the bishop? He sacrificed it for the better move, which is knight captures on e5, sacrificing his third piece in the game. But at this time black didn't capture it. Instead he played queen captures on d1. But let's see what happens if you play d captures on e5. After d captures on e5, Mikhail Tal can play queen captures on e5 check, knight to f6, queen to e7 check, king to h6, rook captures on a8, knight captures on a8, queen to f8 check, king to h5, and after queen captures on f6, Mikhail Tal is threatening the checkmate on the next move. And now there is only one move for the black that can save the game, which is queen captures on f3, giving away his queen. That's the reason why in this position black didn't capture the knight. Instead he played queen to d1 check, king to h2, and now rook to a1. This is a big mistake because black is thinking that he can give the checkmate on the very next move. But it's not easy to checkmate Mikhail Tal. In this position, Mikhail Tal played knight to g4 check, a very important move, because in this position black king cannot play king to f6 or king to h6. If you're thinking about knight to f6, but now queen captures on f6 is a checkmate. That's why in this position knight to f6 does not work. So now there is only one option, which is king to f7, but now knight to h6 check. Again there is only one option, king to e7, and after knight to g8 check, black resigned in this position. The reason is very simple, because again black king has only one move, which is king to f7, and now knight to g5 is a checkmate. That's the reason why black resigned in this game. So I hope you like this brilliant and aggressive game of Mikhail Tal, and if you like it, please like this video, subscribe to this channel to get more amazing and inspiring content.